All right, welcome to another episode of The Gray Matters, where we come together to discuss more than just the hot topics and headlines of the day from a black man's perspective. We appreciate that we are not a monolith, and every subject deserves to be explored with nuance, giving a view from all sides of the culture. So we're here, hopefully, to bring that to you every week with a little bit of class, some fun. Our panel consists of three guys that are nothing alike. And you'll soon come to find out just how much we love each other in spite of our sometimes very big differences. I'm Billy Craig. As always, I'm joining you from the first state in the Union, Delaware. Today, I'm joined by my boys, Bubba Bexley in Nashville, Tennessee. And we have Grady Wilson joining us from Portland. Go ahead and get it out your system, Bubba. Tell them.
Let's get it.
I want my daddy's records.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. I'm on my daddy's records. Yes. All right. I knew it wouldn't take you no time at all to get down.
No.
That's it, man. And so today, we have a special guest that's going to be joining us.
Yes.
Our newfound friend and buddy. Go ahead and bring him in here. Leron is joining us. He's also actually in Portland. But
right now.
Yeah,
man. Right now?
He said
at the moment.
Leron Barton, everybody.
It's wild
Barton.
Out here.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? How y'all doing?
Not a whole lot, man. We're doing pretty good. So we are definitely grateful for your presence and being able to join us today. And so, Andre, why don't you go ahead and tell us not only what we're going to discuss today, but why Leron is here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we like I said, with the mental health conversation and the where is God conversation, we kind of take pride in covering topics that other people may be afraid to cover. But that was kind of the foundation of our show. So one of the things that we wanted to kind of dive into, obviously, as Billy said in the intro, if you haven't watched us on YouTube or anything like that, we're African-American males. So we give you black male perspectives. And so that is all kind of different ones. So that's kind of what we are diving into today, is being black and navigating white spaces, black spaces, all the spaces in between. And we are definitely fortunate to have an author, advocate. Like you got so many things before your bio, man. I can't get into them all, but
my uncles and aunts would call you a heavy brother.
That's love right there.
Yeah.
So, that's a heavy brother right there.
Yeah, published in the Harvard Journal and TEDx's and all, man, Essence, all these things. So
be like you when I grow up,
man. When I grow up, I don't want to be a Toys R Us kid anymore. But no, we wanted to invite Leron on to kind of share his experiences. Brothers from Kansas City, and moved out west, and he's had some world traveling experiences just the same as all of us have. So we have plenty of experience in this forum. So we just want to kick it off and have a dope conversation about it. So as customary, we always start with the guests first. So I'll just start off with a question and we'll just start the conversation from there. So Leron, if you don't mind, I'm gonna just throw you a lob question. Here we go. We're gonna kick it off. So as you alluded to us before in pre-production, that you're from Kansas City and moved out west, but the environment that you grew up in may have been a little bit different, or I guess typical but different from what we are now as adults. So how do you think that has shaped the perspectives on how you've been able to move through, moving to LA and all those different other places?
Sure. This is a really good question. First off, I want to say thank you for allowing me to come. I really appreciate it. I'm always down to talk with the folks, especially some black men. We don't have these kind of conversations very, very often, unfortunately. So I want to say thank you to that. Being from Kansas City, man, it's one of those things where, you grow up in a city that is, predominantly white. Not only that, but just as, it's Midwest and it's Southern. So, it's a very segregated city. And so, you know that you are Black because, you know, they let you know under no uncertain terms. You know, this isn't like a liberal city like, say, Portland, like San Francisco, where like they're kind of like fake nice, you know, where they're like, oh, well, we love Obama, you know what I mean? We want to go to Roscoe's too. No, like, you know, they like the racial lines are drawn pretty deep.
Bold face.
Dude, like it's like
with permanent
it's
marker.
Like
right.
It's like magic marker, right? And so, you know, it shaped me to know, you know, who I am. You know, growing up, we were taught, you know, being Black is beautiful. I mean, you know, my mother, you know, she would often say, I wish I was darker because, you know, I'm a dark cat, right? So, you know, that was instilled in me. It was just it was instilled that, you know, being Black is beautiful and it's the shit, excuse the language. And so, you know, growing up, you would definitely see like the haves and have-nots. I mean, you know, you would see, you know, the white side of town, they would get the new stores. They would get like the nice little restaurants, you know what I'm saying? And while we had liquor stores and food deserts. So it was, you know, like the school differential was so large and you know, anytime, you know, we wanted to do something nice, you know, we had
you a public school cat or you a private school cat?
Public school, 100%, man. Like we didn't have the money to do private school, so yeah.
We didn't either. We all went though.
That's Andre did, but
hey, Andre had the money. We all went to private school, but none of us had the money to get there.
Right.
How'd you guys get in?
We can run.
We can run, jump, and play and take tests, bro.
Yeah. That's all it was.
Yeah. Good on y'all though, man, for real.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, you know, just you know, Kansas City made me want to explore and made me want to see more because I knew, you know, and you know, I have a pride of, you know, where I'm from. Like, you know, I'm from Southside. You know, I'm from Southside Kansas City, 63rd Street. So being from where I'm from made me want to explore more, and so I just had this insatiable, you know, desire to travel and to see more. But like, you know, as I've gotten older, gentlemen, like I've gotten to fall in love again with my city, because when you grow up and when you're poor and when you grow up in a city like Kansas City, where it's like you just don't have anything, and when you go over to the other side of town and you're getting frowns and you know, people don't want you over there, it's clear they don't want you over there, it breeds a sort of a distaste. But now that the city is kind of on an upswing and just, you know, being older, man, and just really appreciating the lessons that I learned from being from Kansas City, it's really made me truly love where I'm from.
Let me follow up on something real quick.
Okay, go ahead. I'm gonna let you talk, Bill.
Yeah, I just had a quick question because I don't know that you're familiar with this, but we have, at least on a couple of occasions on this platform, talked about how, now we're all from Cincinnati.
Yes, sir.
We all grew up there. And yes,
like hold on, like I know y'all getting tired of us like smacking y'all around, huh?
You know what?
Cheeks and bangles, huh?
You know what? See, I was getting ready to be nice, but now see what you made me do.
Hey, the gloves on, bro. Now you bare knuckle now, bro.
Here we go.
I can't even help you.
That's day one. That's day one. That's day one.
That's day one. Arrowhead, a ballhead, and I was
like, you know what? Yeah, no, you know what? That was. That's another conversation.
Yeah.
Check back with us on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm gonna say check back on Wednesday for the football.
This is for health.
Right. Yeah, you done got all up in my mental. But no, what I was gonna ask you is this: we've talked about this previously, being that we all grew up in the same neighborhood in Cincinnati. Yeah. And what I was gonna ask you, because like you like us, you have traveled and lived a lot of different places.
Right. Yes, sir.
And as you were talking about what almost sounded like there's an affinity. Now I love Cincinnati. I love my home, but I have no desire to go back there And
Can't do
some of
more than
it,
72 hours.
right. I literally after about 3 days,
Right.
it gets itchy. It
It's
gets
a
really
wrap.
uncomfortable.
I feel you. I feel that.
Because even though I have matured and grown, I don't feel like the culture or the environment in this city has grown with me. Even though I've gotten, I mean, I'm older. I haven't been there really for any length of time since I've been a kid, like a young
The
man.
90s.
Yeah. And so my question for you is, what type of relationship do you have, not just with the city or your old neighborhood, but like with the culture? Because Kansas City has changed, but has it changed with you?
Oh, one clarification. It's Kansas City, Missouri, right?
Yes, sir. Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, I ain't
yeah. We ain't talking about
Hey, brother.
No
I'm just saying we have some people that
like the real Kansas City.
No,
like,
man,
come on now.
Exactly.
Now.
The real Kansas City. No.
Thank you.
Man,
what is wrong with you?
Question.
Right.
I just like to clarify.
It has, man. I think that as I've grown, I've been able to see different things, meet different people, just experience, just grow. I feel like that the city has grown as well, man. I feel like that there's more opportunity for us. I feel like that there's, unfortunately, well, I mean, as far as like the different type of businesses that are coming down, just like there's
like on it. I'm curious because
no problem.
I have people who have lived in Kansas City and have left, and I'm curious. And again, we're all Midwest. Right. We're all Midwest born and bred. So I'm curious.
I think that so first off, like with just America being just so expensive, right? I feel that it's not necessarily like a boom town, but I just feel like that there are young folks that are coming in there and they're sort of revitalizing neighborhoods, right? They're bringing different opportunities that may have not, like, dude, like I seen a boba shop in Kansas City. I was like, word. I mean, like to me, like that's kind of symbolic of the changes. I mean, dude, like there's a Cane's there. There's just these different type of chains, and yes, there is gentrification. I think that's kind of unstoppable, but I feel like that there's a sense of hope. Now that could also be due to the Chiefs, dominating. It could also be sorry man, like dude, like you guys mayor called Arrowhead.
We're jocks. We're not going to get upset by you talking about the Chiefs dominating. We're not going to get upset.
It's not
That's what's happening.
Yeah,
but all right, but
it brings money in, so I definitely understand.
Successful
teams bring money to the area. So
no, do like successful teams do bring money. I mean, I think like many cities, like I'm pretty sure I've never been to Atlanta, but I'm pretty sure like there are parts in Chicago. Nah, man, like you know what, man, and it's a story behind it. I'm not big on humidity. Like the first time that I've been to the South,
that cancels you out immediately.
That was one of the reasons why I left Kansas.
You can't go south of the Appalachians.
I was gonna say there's a third of the country you can't.
Right? It's a wrap.
Stop at the airport.
The first time that I went to the South was back in 2018 when I did my first TEDx, and I went to Florence, Alabama.
Ooh,
and it was starting to cool off, but I was like,
where Florence, Alabama is, but I've been to Birmingham and Tuscaloosa because my oldest son was decent at football, and I don't ever want to go back to the state of Alabama. I don't even know what the heck you talking about. What's Florence?
Florence, Alabama is actually not too far from Tuscaloosa. It's actually in an area called the Muscle Shoals, which is sort of groups, sort of like a group of cities together. I mean, it's
right.
Florence is incredible. It's North Alabama. That's where that is. But being able to see the city from a different lens, like when you grow up, you're like, I want this. How come I can't do this? How come I don't have access to this? How come, people in California live this way? why does New York seem like this? Why does Chicago seem like that? And so, to be honest with you, as I've seen and been to a lot of these places, I've sort of, when I would come back to Kansas City, I kind of loved it for what it was, man. Like, you know what I mean? And as well as like for what it is. Like, it's not Chicago, it's not Kansas City, it's never gonna be Los Angeles, but it's really charming, it's really family oriented. I don't think that I'll ever live there, but it's where a lot of my origin story starts, man. And and again, just like the lessons and the wins and the failures that I've experienced, many of them come from Kansas City. So
what high school did you go to? Yeah. What high school did you go to?
I first started out at East High, which was an agricultural high school. I was a future farmer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, like I was a future farmer of America. So,
nice.
You was a 4F guy, huh?
Yeah, yes, sir. Got a chance to go to Des Moines, Iowa. Went to like a farming like a convention really young. Went to Adventure World. Then, but I've always
shout
wanted
out to
to
Guillermo
write.
doing well out in Des Moines.
Yeah, that's true. My boy.
Guillermo.
Yeah, our boy.
Yeah, our boy.
But East was East just wasn't my jazz, man. Like it was kind of a violent school, and I just I'm a writer, I'm a creative, and so I auditioned for this school in Kansas City called Paseo Academy of Fine Arts. The writing people, they liked my samples, and so I was able to get in, and so that's where I finished my 11th and 12th grade years. So
okay.
Yeah.
So
right,
other than writing, farmers. You have is writing your thing, or are you multifaceted? Yeah. Like Dre, for instance, sings, dance, rap in all one show. You understand what I'm saying?
That is just not a good comparison, my
he don't dance.
Like,
I stay attending.
That is bad hip hop, man. No, I would say for me, everything starts from the writing. Like it's my favorite thing to do. It's the easiest thing that I know to do. Like it's probably the only thing that I know how to do that's very effortlessly. You know what I'm saying? It just comes. It just comes natural, and so it was just something that I just always love to do, man. I'm writing it.
Like, do you like poetry? Do you like writing stories, like scripts? Like, what's your bag? Like, when you get in your bag, what do you do?
So I started out writing stories. I would write short stories when I was younger. Then I would create my own comic books. Then from there, I started writing poetry, and I got really good at that. And I wrote a play. And as I got older, I began to write essays. And so I think that my strongest medium there are between essays, poems, and now speeches. Because I mean, it's just those. I mean, just being able to like to bring out emotion, tell a story. I mean, they all sort of like go together. But yeah, man, like
because we're all writers. If you don't know, like Dre's a writer, Rev's a reverend, so he has to write like literally every Sunday, right? Like his pen game is serious, right? Like we all got pen game. That's why I'm asking. I'm just trying to figure out. I'm just trying to pull a little bit up out of you, bro.
Even between like the two books, man, like I think at my basic level, I'm a storyteller, and so not only do I love to tell stories, but I also equally love to listen to stories. And so it's always been revolved around like telling a story. So yeah.
So since we are on the writing kick, this is a perfect segue. So you wrote a book called Straight Dope, a 360 look into American drug culture.
Yes, sir.
So we have let me ask first, how old are you? Not to get
I'm 45.
Oh, okay. So we all in the
So
same.
we all the same. Yeah.
Okay, so we all
That's
crack
definitely
baby,
safe.
crack baby generation. All right, sweet.
Yeah,
Absolutely. 100%.
So what kind of in the realms of that book and your upbringing, like was your upbringing the catalyst for that book, or was this something that the book was just completely separate from that? It just happened to coincide.
Very good question. I so growing up in South Side, like you've seen drugs. Like, I mean, like I'm not gonna front. I'm not gonna front and say like that I grew up around like New Jack City, but I mean if the talk of drugs and seeing drugs and having family members on drugs was a regularity. And I've always wanted to know, like, why is America so inundated with drugs? And so, one of my favorite writers of all time is a guy by the name of Studs Terkel. Rest in peace, Studs. He, if you've not heard of him, he was a Chicago-based writer, and he would what Studs would do is that he would pick a topic, and he would just interview people, and for me, like, I'm a very inquisitive person, and I just like listening to people. And so I just wanted to just talk to people who, people who were addicted, people who sold, people who use, people who've been impacted by, drugs taking their close ones' lives, parents, teachers, drug counselors. Just, I wanted to get like a full sort of look into it. That's where the 360 degree comes from. And I got some really good answers, man. I mean, writing your first book, I mean, like that'll always be my baby. I mean, that's when I sort of stepped out to become a professional writer. It's actually 10 years old, and being able to create this project and to just sort of see it through, and the fact that writing a book is a lot of work. I mean, I learned a lot. One of the greatest things I learned is that you can never be your own editor because
right.
You're just not going to look at it objectively. But I really like the project, and I think that it turned out okay. I think that it should have turned out better, but I mean, still, it's a great achievement. So
let me ask you a question real quick.
Yes,
because I kind of want to, this is one of the things that I wanted to, and it's kind of a two-part question, so bear with me. One is, even in just reading some of the stuff that you've read, kind of just wanting to get a little more familiar with you, I noticed that there's a lot of stuff that you talk about that we kind of call like being in different spaces, not just like the fact that we live in different cities than where we grew up, but one of the things that a lot of people, when they talk to me, what they do is they eventually find out, not only do I live in a different place than where I grew up that was familiar, but I actually exist in spaces that a lot of Black people kind of feel like they're not comfortable in, whether that's in academia, whether that's in a certain neighborhood, they're not comfortable there. And one of my, my experience is that at a very young age, I'm talking second grade, I got bussed off into schools that were all white. And it was kind of one of those fight or flight. Yeah, we all did. And so there was kind of a fight or flight thing where it's like, really, there was no flight involved. It was either fight or just cower back.
So there was supposed to be a flight. Billy
chose there was supposed to be a plan, and it wasn't. But the point is,
it wasn't no choice.
I got comfortable with the idea that I'm going to have to be able to exist in spaces that were not intended for me. Paul says this all the time, where it's like, I got in the huddle that I wasn't supposed to be there. It was not planned for me to be there. That's how I got most of the things that I have in life, was being able to adapt quickly. And so my question for you is, because even in like the TED, the space where you're talking about doing TED Talks, there's not a lot of Black men who have done TED Talks. And it's not because we can't. It's just there are spaces that were intended for certain audiences, certain people to actually project in that way. And you have, like us, in many ways, invaded those spaces. So the first part of my question
literally
is
invaded.
literally
you
invaded
weren't
those
invited.
spaces. Yeah.
No,
there was no invitation. You just were there. So my first part of my question is, and I'll save the second part for after you're done, but the first part of my question is related to what was your journey in invading those spaces? Because you got a lot of spaces on your resume.
So again, like, it's a very good question. I first, credits to God, but definitely I also credit it to my family and to, living in Kansas City. My mother, she always encouraged me to talk. I have a stutter, right? So, if anyone's listened to me at an extended period of time, you can tell that I have a stutter. So she would not let me not talk, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, she would not let me feel sorry for myself. And so growing up in my household, we were always taught that we're just as good as them. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that it's really important for young Black kids, especially young Black boys, to know that you're not a thug, you're not a troublemaker, you're not second class, but you're just as good as them. And so there are times that I faced imposter syndrome. You dig? I mean, like, dude, like I just defeated it this year. I'm gonna keep it all the way live with you.
I'm gonna keep it all the way live with you. I fight it to this day.
Yeah.
To this very day, I fight imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Every day.
And it's like, I say that I would fight it because when you're the only one, right? In those spaces, not only you being the only one, but where you coming from. Like, we were poor, so there'd be times where, and I'll never forget this day in particular. I was in San Diego. I went to the W Hotel, went to their rooftop, and I was like, and I just looked around, y'all, and I was like, damn, man, I feel country as hell, like because I mean, I never seen nothing like that, right? It was just like, at the time, it was the nicest hotel I've ever seen, and I'm like, they just not letting niggas in here. Excuse my language, but it's like, so I mean, being there, like, I just realized,
I gotta stop something. I know you from Kansas City. I know where you from.
Right.
If I say cuz, is that bothering you?
Not at all. Not
okay.
Not at all.
That's all I wanted to know. Then we can go ahead and
go, man.
Okay.
But I mean, I guess just my mother always told me that if you don't believe in yourself, why should anyone else, right? And it's very scary to sort of put yourself out there, right? But for me, man, like, I've been laughed at. I mean, look, having a stutter family, I was teased. Kids used to make fun of, like, me being dark. My first play that I wrote in high school, it was so bad that the actors laughed at the dialogue. You know what I mean?
Dang.
So it's like,
my first rap song was terrible.
Bro, I got booed off stage my first time performing. So yeah,
yeah, we all been there.
So, I mean, so you're constantly like developing like that thick skin, but just I knew that. But to go back to answer your question, man, I knew the places that I wanted to go. I knew that unfortunately I was gonna be one of the only. You dig? So it's like I had to like mentally prepare myself. Like, all right, so I'm going to go to say, I mean, just think. All right, so I'm gonna go to say Venice. I'm gonna be one of the only. I'm gonna do my first TEDx. There's not a lot of Black men doing TEDx's. You know what I'm saying? There's not a lot of Black men coming from where I'm coming from. Like, I always say, listen, I'm not supposed to be here, man, because it's like when you come from like poverty to be able to reach that that means you've been grinding your whole life, man. And I mean, to make it, it's not a self-congratulatory thing, but it's just sort of acknowledging that the road to get to where I am and have been has been a different as well as very challenging one. And when I work in tech companies, I'm gonna be one of the few. When I go to these conferences and when I speak in front of these folks, I'm probably gonna be one of the few Black folks that they've ever heard talk, and just the way and just the way that I talk, right? Because I don't code switch, I don't do none of that anymore. I'm just real. I'm just official tissue. You know what I mean? You see what you see, and I'm not going to like hide what I am.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Got it. So one of the things that I was thinking about when you were talking, because as Paul mentioned earlier, all of us went to Catholic high schools,
Right.
so private institutions, and we knew from the jump that we didn't belong
Right.
in those spaces.
And they didn't want us there.
But the thing was, I didn't care because I knew I had something to offer.
Absolutely.
I knew you needed me because I ran a 4.3 and a 40. I knew that you needed me because
fast.
Yeah, I could do some things. Whereas, so I brought a value to the school, so it was a different swagger that I had going into that space. But for you, and I just thought about this because you're a writer and still navigating those spaces where you may not, from a tangible, like going in, they don't see the value in a writer coming to join that space. Whereas they see, 6'2", 180 pound corner coming into that space. They're like, oh, we can do something with that. So when you're navigating that space, and I think the appropriate word, and I'm actually falling in love with that, is invaded that space. With the preconceived notion of all I got is a pen and a pad. And I'm going to give you something different that may not be tangible or may not put points up on the scoreboard. Like it's just thoughts. Like how did you kind of fight the urge to flee in that moment? Like where it's just like, yo, this is
because we all wanted to leave. We all wanted to leave.
I mean, I don't know, y'all. Like, I just want to just see more, man. I mean, like, and and I know, like that, there's a saying in business like that I've heard, right? It's like the higher you go, the wider it gets, right? I mean, that's just real. It's like the more successful you get, the less of us. And I knew that like the things that I wanted to achieve, like racism, white supremacy, anti-blackness is going to be there regardless, right? And exactly, man. I mean, like, I think that when people try to say, oh, I made it despite, I'm like, look, man, that's some bull job, man. I mean, but that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day.
I could give you a Salt Lake City conversation,
man,
about this whole situation, about blackness, whiteness, and everything in between. Like that's a whole episode right there, bro.
Bro, it's funny because like when I first talked to y'all, man, and you tell me about being Black in Salt Lake, I was like, damn, like that is something like it's. I mean, like that's something that I would love to learn,
dude. So it was really, really hard. So my kid was also famous,
sure. Right?
That's what made it worse.
I mean, them white folks was probably
if we were like
on one.
Not until it was actually pretty chill till Trump got elected. Yep.
Right.
It was actually really chill.
Funny how that happened.
People I had problems with in Salt Lake were other brown people. I didn't have no problem with white folk. The white folk actually ain't that bad. It's the brown folk that you got to worry about in Salt Lake.
Man, like Salt Lake, like when I went up there this year, man, I thought it felt really it felt very foreign. Like it felt very interesting. Like, it didn't feel like Portland. It didn't feel like Seattle. It didn't feel like San Francisco.
It is foreign. Like that feeling was genuine.
That was
your feelings was right, my man.
I'll say this, man. Like the air was real clean. You know what I mean? Like it was no. You don't.
Salt Lake got the worst air quality in America outside of LA.
Oh yeah. I'll be like, where's the LA?
Yeah, especially in the
um,
winter because of the
with them
inversions.
orange skies.
So the sunsets are so beautiful. Oh
Yeah,
my
it's
God, the
like
sunsets are so beautiful in Utah.
I'll say this, man. Utah is gorgeous, bro.
Yes,
I still want to make it to the Moab, man. That's something. You ever been?
I've been through. I
Oh, okay.
haven't like spent a bunch of time, but Moab is dope. I believe St. George is actually the prettiest part
Really?
of Utah. Yeah,
Oh,
St. George. St.
Saint
George
George.
is so beautiful. Yes,
No, like
St. George is beautiful. That's where all the Red Rock is,
okay. I did not know. You
down
know,
in
it's
the
funny. Like
south, and that's
when I
about
was
like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours from Vegas.
damn word. Oh, okay. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. You know, like when I was driving through Utah, I had to go. I had to go to Salt Lake. Then I believe I had to go to like Vernal and Price. Do you know
Ooh,
where those
you went
cities
to
are?
Vernal?
Yeah.
Wow. For what? Ain't nothing
uh,
there.
biz, business, man. Like you
Tell
Like
know,
that
literally,
man
there's nothing
business.
there.
very rural,
He know
right?
people, man. Leave that man alone.
No,
Vernal?
listen,
No,
bro.
He
no,
don't
no,
want to
bro.
I
tell
didn't
us
know
why
Moab.
we in Vernal.
Going to Vernal is like somebody saying you had to go to Trotwood.
Okay, he had a purpose. Stop putting his
Like,
business
yeah,
out
bro.
there.
Vernal different. Vernal different. Go ahead.
Vernal's
Oh, my
man.
bad.
Listen, bro.
Putting him out here on
Vernal,
blast.
Vernal's definitely somewhere that I did not know existed. But you
Right.
know,
That's exactly what I'm saying.
but you know what, man? Like, it's you know, like I don't blame Black folks who want to flee those spaces, man. Because you know, one thing that I don't do, man, it is like I don't blame. Look, you know, we're all victims of racism, white supremacy,
Mhm.
right? So it's like I don't
White
blame.
people too.
Uh, you think so?
Yeah.
I
We're
would
all
love.
victims of it.
See, man,
Well,
you know, I think they're
yeah.
I
doing all
believe
right, man. I
we're
think they're doing
all
okay.
colonized. No, I'm not saying that they're suffering. I'm saying we're
Oh,
all
okay.
victims of
I like
racism
that
and
No,
then.
white
Yeah,
nobody
supremacy.
gets out alive. Like there
Right.
is definitely
Yeah.
contamination, and you
100%.
will feel the effects, but they are not suffering as a result. It is not commiserate. Like
Man,
it
But
is
they
that
not.
but they
yo,
definitely are
I love
affected
that.
by
I
Yeah.
how
love
they
that.
see the world, how their entitlement, whatever
Yeah.
you understand what I'm saying?
How about
Yes,
your
yes,
fear
yes, sir.
and just fear of your fragility is the direct result of it too. But let
Facts.
me
There we
follow
go.
up on something else real quick though, because you touched on it for a second. I kind of want to go back here because a part of invading spaces. Quick story: when I transferred schools in second grade, I was in the art program, and I had a teacher who I am certain has long since passed by now. She was old when I was in second grade, so we're talking 40 years ago.
She watching right now.
Man, listen, shout out to Miss Bennett, because she ain't listen. But what happened was I actually had a really significant stutter that Miss Bennett, my teacher in second grade, recognized. And later on, when I went back to visit her, she would go on to tell me that she recognized it. And that's why she made me read aloud. She made me speak up in class because I was the
Right.
only black kid in my class. And she understood that mine, even though we didn't call it like imposter syndrome, she
Mhm.
understood that mine was coming from anxiety related to it.
Absolutely.
And
Me
you
too, man.
wrote a
Me
really
too.
hard piece, like a really very introspective piece, talking about how you basically one day was just like, man, F it. I'm not about to sit here and live the rest of my
Mhm.
life worried about stuttering or I can't get my words out and how other people are going to receive me. What I was
Right.
going to ask you was, how did that affect you when it comes to invading these spaces? Like I was thinking when we have you back, this is
That's a
the
dope question.
this is the Space Invaders forum, right?
Right.
We're the
Yeah. Word.
Space
We going in.
Invaders. Right. And the question is, see, like when I had my issues, it was um similar, but it sounds like it was quite different. My question is, how did you invading those space, how did you having the speech problem with the stutter, how did that affect how you invaded these spaces? And the follow-up to that is, is that the reason why you lean so hard into writing? Because writing is something that did not require you to actually have to use your words.
That's a dope
Vocally.
ass question. I'm gonna sit back.
Super dope question. Having a stutter, and so I always like to look at it as like pre and post TEDx, right? So before the TEDx, when I having a stutter, there's a way folks can sort of like talk around certain words. Like, there were times when I would have a problem pronouncing my name Leron, so I would just say Ron. There's these things they're sort of masking words.
They call them strategies, by the way. My wife is she's one of the best speech language pathologists.
Yeah, his wife is actually a speech pathologist. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I wanted you to speak to this, because in the Black community, it is something that oftentimes children don't get the resource. Their parents do not force the school to give them the resources to be able to deal with it. So that's why I'm particularly impressed with your story. That's why I want you to talk about it.
We also have a homeboy who's a football coach in Cincinnati Public School who stutters.
Yeah.
So just your journey. Yeah, like one of my dog. Like I played with him in college. I was the X, he was the Z. Like you understand what I'm saying? If you understand football, you know what I mean.
No. I feel you. Again, trying to just like step around these words, trying to say things so fast so you don't trip up, and just honestly, man, sometimes even being quiet. There were times that because I was so afraid to stutter, I would not speak up. There would be opportunities that would just pass me by because I wouldn't speak up. And regarding the writing correlating with the stuttering, I don't, not directly or not explicitly, but when you're on like the dating apps, right? Like, you can type, you know what I mean? Versus like, you have to be, you have to be vocal. Or I swear to God, like, I never forget this. Like there were times where I would do good on the phone, do a phone interview for a job, and I think like, yo, I nailed it. Then I'd be like, hey, we want you to come in for a face to face, and I'm like, shit, like, I've got to actually talk in front of people. So
I gotta look at you while I'm doing it.
Right? Exactly. So it was the anxiety, man. I mean, and it's one of those things where we often view things worse than what they really are, right? So I never forget, like, I was in a fashion show, and I had to show some skin, and so I'm just worried about this. And so one day I woke up.
That's a Billy's alley.
Hey,
dude, listen,
he's a bodybuilder.
I woke up, I had a panic.
I used to do fashion. I used to do runway modeling.
Yeah, I'm dead ass. So, like, I'm not. That's not a joke. That's a fact.
Right.
Well, I mean, you gotta so you know that you have to look a certain way, right? And so I woke up with a panic attack, and so I called one of my friends. I was like, "Hey, this is what's going on. This is what I fear." And she's like, "Leron, look, ain't nobody gonna be looking at you for more than 15 seconds. As you walk on and off, ain't nobody gonna be worried about you. Why are you?"
And as a male model, you're kind of just a prop anyway.
Exactly, man. I mean, so I just kind of looked at it like, look, people are not paying so much attention to my stutter more than I am, more than I'm like, I'm more, you know what I mean? Like, I'm putting too much on it, basically. So I just decided, like, after I did the TEDx, and I just really started to, instead of, prior to that, gentlemen, like, I would never talk about it, right? Like, it would just be something that I would not even mention. I would not even gloss over. Now I own it. And that's because I was able to do something that I've always wanted to do, and to give a talk about stuttering, someone that stutters. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but one of, like, my disability that I have, I'm giving a talk about it. I'm doing this podcast. I mean, when I started doing podcasts, I would hate listening back, man, because I'd be like, oh man, I'd probably sound terrible. Now I'm like, yo,
imagine being a rapper with that problem.
Yeah.
Man.
Gosh, I'm like, like one of the greatest rappers, I believe, of all time is a guy by the name of Jay Electronica, and he has a stutter, and he's dumb
He
nice.
aight.
Like
he aight.
See, now
He
you gonna get caught
aight.
fighting with you.
he's not better.
He
He's
write
not.
one rhyme every 5 years.
But I mean, but dude, like quality over quantity, man. I mean, like you could be Drake,
Wow.
and write a
Drake
bunch of
can't be the
trash.
bar though, dog. Come
Well,
on,
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
like, no, true.
You in the wrong room bringing up Drake.
Right. No, don't do this.
Nah, don't do that.
I'm just not a fan, man. But
I feel what
I'm
you're
messing
saying.
with
Yeah.
you. I'm
And
messing
it's
with you.
interesting because even as you're talking about that, one of the things is not only because, and mine was relatively, not that you compare them, my issue was minor partly because I got the help that I needed young.
Mhm.
And even as I was reading, as you were talking about your situation, how it really was something that it's been kind of with you. So
Absolutely.
I guess the TED talk was almost like I conquered the mountain, like I've overcome,
Man.
and now it's like you kind of can't tell me nothing no more. Like
I got a basic ass question. Did you fight a lot as a kid?
Not really. I mean, I wasn't afraid because I mean,
I didn't
look,
say you
like,
was a
know,
punk. I said, did you fight a lot?
you know what I mean? Like, when I was a kid, like and this is like the real talk hour. So
Right. Let's get it in.
So
we
I
all
think,
from the Midwest. You know what I mean.
Right. So I think the last fight that I had, I was in the 9th grade, right? And I'm like, and this girl, she's kind of a big, kind of big girl, and we started fighting, and I'm putting her in a headlock, and I'm all like, yo, chill, and it's like, she gets out, and she gives me like a nice 2-piece, and I was like, okay, all right, yeah, like easy.
Rasputia bust your ass, huh?
Right.
Man, how
you doing? Man, I hear fighting Della Reese.
She has some hands though, for real. She was like, hey, chill. Relax.
That's why Eddie had to shoot her in the toe.
Exactly.
Well, man. Oh, man,
He had to
9th
buzz his
grade.
gun.
But I mean,
Eddie,
yeah, like
quick ain't want no smoke.
Man, he definitely diffused that situation. But no, I mean, like, that was the last fight. But going back to the question, just after I did the TEDx, man, I just was like, I'm not ashamed of this no more, because this is, I mean, like, it's a part of me. It's not who I am. And when you have something like that is socially unacceptable, right? People make fun of it. I mean, like, gosh, I mean, we've seen movies, dudes making fun of like the Dunna man. You know what I mean? Just I mean, just people.
I got you.
People making
I asked that question because growing up, my daddy was dead when I was 2, and I was mad all the goddamn time. All right, I didn't say that for sympathy, but I'm telling you, I was a super angry child, so I fought all the time, and I could only imagine if I was also getting picked on.
Yeah, I was about to say, when did it expire?
When did you grow up? You wasn't gonna tell nobody?
That's why I asked the question. Did you fight a lot as a kid? Because the dude who has overhated on his shirt is actually the most angry person on this podcast.
Do tell.
By far.
And he got Jesus. He worked for Jesus. So
like, Paul got a ramp up period. I'm pretty chill. Billy goes 0 to 60.
Yeah. Dre is always the he is always the sobering.
If Dre is wanting to fight,
sobering,
it's too late.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, somebody done really picked the wrong one, babe.
No,
you don't want him.
If he upset, it's a problem. It's a whole problem if he upset, because he don't get mad at nothing.
I'm the unicorn and rainbows guy group.
He really don't care that much.
But I mean, like, kids would, I mean, kids tease me when I was younger. So it's funny. It's like, my stutter would come and go, right? It would be here for 6 months, then it would leave, then it would come back. And I mean, And if we're just being honest, like it really started to get profound as I got older and as I, began to drink alcohol. And it was like, okay, we're staying. And, I mean, I don't know, man.
Has your anxiety gotten better or worse as you've gotten older? Because I know my own is getting worse as I age. I don't know about the rest of y'all.
That's a good question. I think my anxiety can be situational. I mean, I think I know it revs up, or it used to rev up when I would have to introduce myself. Like when we're all kind of going around the room, and you're like two, and it's like two people away from me. It would kind of rise up, but now, man. I mean, again, like
that's a good one. I feel that because I'm my wife's husband. I don't know if y'all know what that feels like, but I am my wife's husband. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? She's
you
not
feel
my
judged
wife.
Almost, right.
Yeah. So when I have to go do events, my anxiety is horrible.
Why is that though? Why do you think?
Because I'm my wife's husband.
He's Stephen Graham.
Yeah, his wife is important,
bro. Yeah, she's super important.
She's important, and he's just he's the plus one.
Yeah. So I have to be interesting and all these extra things whenever I go to these events, and she's the star of the room. So my anxiety goes crazy around these events.
You know what's crazy? Believe it or not, LeBron, people who members of my congregation or people who listen to me regularly, it's not a big church, but I preach every Sunday, yes, sir. And then I have we have our Wednesday nights, whatever. People for years, I would tell people about it. The only time my stammer is noticeable is if I'm extremely tired. If I haven't gotten enough rest, I don't care how prepared I am. I don't have any anxiety about it. But when I have not gotten proper rest, or if I'm dehydrated, really tired, fatigued, body beat up, man, you talking about butchering a sermon. It gets to where every point, every third, fourth sentence. And so it kind of
that soothing ass voice.
But it presents
ready to go to sleep.
But to your point, it presents, and that's why I like you. I like how you use that word situationally.
You know exactly what I'm talking.
Situationally, that's my situation. If I'm tired and I didn't have enough rest, it'd be really bad. Right, so I can understand what you're saying.
But since you are age, I know we talk about nowadays kids are soft and things in society has changed and things like that. But we grew up in a time where there wasn't really much policing or bullying or you dealt with bullying by fighting. That was
exactly. You better run. You better be able to run.
Yeah, there wasn't no telling the teacher. There wasn't no telling the teacher, and we have guidance counselors, and there's a meeting with the principals, and all the parents sit down.
Hope Billy Craig will step in and save you.
But one of the things I do think has been an improvement in society is related to dealing with people with disabilities. Just because we've become better trained in that thing. So I'll never forget when me and Paul were after our pre-interview, when we finished talking to you, I had mentioned to Paul that you had on your website you talked about you had a stutter and stuff like that. Paul was like, man, I ain't even noticed. But I think growing up, we would have definitely picked on it. I think now as time has gone on, we've all matured and society has matured around disabilities and things like that. We're a lot more nice about, people being different. And so in that space of people being different and moving, and all of us moving to different places, I'm in Nashville, Paul is in Portland, Billy's in Delaware, and all these spaces are still for the most part white spaces, but they have different levels of tolerance within those spaces. People always ask me about Nashville and what's it like for racial
Nashville, man.
Yeah, the racial component.
Vegas, as my little cousin call it.
Man,
They
no better partying, man. No better partying.
There, but we see a lot more interracial couples here than we do in anywhere else in the state of Tennessee. It's widely more accepted. Like, I mean, to the point where
you
it's
know
like
the capital. Go to Omaha.
Surprisingly,
Omaha,
yes.
Nebraska.
Yes.
Go to Omaha, Nebraska. There's more interracial couples there than there are homogenous couples.
Yep.
Wow.
Oh, that's crazy.
But with Nashville, like it's also more like it's more tolerated. Like it literally is more tolerated here than like it would be in Knoxville or Chattanooga or some other
Memphis
places.
Even,
yeah, definitely in Memphis. So I was just wondering, like, from your experience, from like, but it was eye-opening for me just because, again, I was born in Louisville, Kentucky, but raised in Cincinnati, just like these other two, and so there was always a stigma that came with the interracial component, at least what I found in Cincinnati, where it was like a culture shock when I moved here, and it was just like, oh, y'all don't really care. Like, oh, okay, all right, cool. Like, I never cared, but I'm also, again, as they stated, I'm normally the level one.
Real talk? I felt when I lived in the South, I figured out that it was way more tolerated in the South than where we grew up.
It was in Cincinnati.
Interesting. Okay.
Like, because I lived in Miami for 10 years.
So
everybody getting with everybody down there, right?
Right. Everybody pretty down there. Yeah, there's some beautiful people down there, bud, boy.
It's just, you only get judged if you're not with a pretty person. That's it. Everything else is
right.
But when you've moved and navigated, and I think all of us, I've given my answer, but like when you've moved and navigated different spaces, are there different cultural things that you found that were more shocking once you left your original, or left your original place? Is kind of my question.
Yeah, I mean, so for example, like, when I went to San Diego, I mean, I never seen I never seen Filipino folks, you know what I mean? I never was exposed to
as well.
Gorgeous. I mean, I've never been experienced. I mean, I've never been exposed to just like heavily Latino neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, Kansas City, we got the West Side where we have a small Mexican population, but just in San Diego, it's a very heavily Latino city because we're right next to the border, and plus, it's California. Just how people thought about LGBTQ folks. I mean, that was my first time ever seeing like a lesbian bar. I mean, like a bar dedicated to lesbians. I mean, I was like, wow, like, I would see men holding hands and kissing. And, back in Kansas City, I never saw that. I mean, everybody was just so much more just relaxed. They were just, cannabis, everywhere. I mean, there was so many
to mind your business when you move to a big town.
Yeah, man. I mean, and it's like, cities like that, people go there to find something or to leave something that they're coming from, and I just found that, there were so many different types of people, where it's like Kansas City is just primarily white and black. There, I saw so many different types of Asian people, and not only that, but just different languages being spoken. I mean, Spanish being like a dominant language. I mean, it was amazing, like, for me to see that.
How old were you when you got there?
When I first got there, I believe I was 19, maybe 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got turned out the same way I got turned out when I moved to Miami. I was 24 when I moved to Miami.
Man, young boy, huh?
So, I was a young boy, and I was turned out. Like, I saw people selling stuffed animals on the side of the highway, and I was like, this is the place.
They had that kid. They had that
weird.
That Care Bear that you always wanted that you didn't get as a kid.
Like, okay, so it's money down here. Like, you could just stand on the side of the highway and make some money. This is it.
That was Atlanta.
I'm never going home.
Because I spent about 9 years in Atlanta, and it was the same experience where it was like, oh, this is different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I always say, like, people who live in California, like, they're they just, I mean, like places like California and Chicago, New
Florida.
York, they, like Miami, they just don't know, because it's like, like you are just so far ahead of the culture wave versus like being in Kansas City, and you're having to catch up, and it's just, you're just like, wow, like I didn't even know people could live like this. And then traveling outside of the states and just seeing how people live. But man, like and then taking a bigger leap and then moving to San Francisco, man, and that was a humongous culture shock, because I thought I was liberal. And then I went to San Francisco. I was like, damn, I ain't.
So you don't lock your car no more?
Man, listen, San Francisco.
What's the point, right?
San Francisco and Oakland, they're
gonna get in that mug.
Exactly.
Don't put nothing in it. Just leave it open. Just keep it unlocked, bro. They getting in that
funny,
thing,
man. Is like, you guys ever watch The Wire?
Yeah.
All right. So you remember episode 3? I'm sorry, season 3.
I'm out. I checked out a season. I checked out midway through season 2.
Season 2, yeah, I was about to say right around there.
I was out.
But go ahead. No, I still follow the reference here.
But I mean, so
I got
Lieutenant
pictures with Snoop though.
Oh, like Baltimore Snoop?
Yeah.
A word.
I met her at the
Alicia Pearson.
I met her at a Mayweather fight. My wife and I went to see Mayweather fight in Vegas, and she was at the casino, and I had to get a picture. Yeah.
Was she cool?
Yeah, cool as hell.
Okay,
super cool. Her and the big tall dude.
Man, let him make his reference to The Wire, man.
But all right. So season 3, Lieutenant Bunny Colvin's like, we're gonna create like this drug. I'm like this drug zone, right? And and he was like, it's gonna be like Amsterdam, but the locals start calling it Hamsterdam. Well, when I went down to San Francisco, and there's a part of San Francisco, and so this is not me bashing San Francisco. San Francisco is amazing. It's a beautiful city. I love it. It took me leaving and then coming back to be like, yo, like I love it. But like any city, San Francisco has its problems. There's a part of San Francisco, it's called the Tenderloin. Now,
I know exactly what you're about to go. I know exactly where you're going. Go ahead.
The Tenderloin, like, so again, I grew up in the hood. We will see like the little like local crackhead, you know what I mean? He or she kind of like, doing his thing. They, trifling, whatever, right? When you go to the Tenderloin, I wasn't prepared for that. Like I've never seen like, man, I've never seen an open air drug market.
That's real though.
Yeah, bro.
Well, you in Portland?
Well, so Portland's got.
You do understand we was handing out crack pipes. The state.
What y'all handing out? Crack pipes?
Crack pipes and syringes.
There's
somebody somebody was that liberal. Portland's that liberal.
You can listen. You can justify the needles. I understand that, but the crack pipes, I'm just like, no, dude, stop. But
I'm wild out this piece, boy.
I mean, but yeah, like I being down in the TL, man, I was like, wow. I mean, like just seeing people sitting on the sidewalk, shooting up. You know what I mean? I had never seen that before.
Smoking meth just outside.
Just, you know what I mean? Out. Just
like all willy-nilly. Like
just like basing out. I mean, yeah, it was real, man. So, but but just like, but I mean, like that's, but like that was like one of the few negatives. But I mean, just like being in what I call a tier 1 city, like Miami, Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, Boston, those the cities. It's a really like Chicago. It's a truly like world-class city, and so I think that I needed to go from Kansas City to San Diego to sort of prepare me to go to San Francisco. And, it was a really great sort of progression, if you will.
And what you're speaking to, Leron, real quick, just before we wrap, population size does not dictate the variety or the diversity, because a lot of times people, so for example, if you look at the population size of, say, Boston, and you were to compare it to Atlanta, people just assume, oh, well, it's going to be. Atlanta is not nearly the melting pot. Now, it's granted, it's diverse, but it's not nearly the same as what you would see if you go to Boston.
International city.
It's right. Internet. No, Atlanta's international. It's just not like it ain't the center. No, man. I mean, it's the biggest.
Atlanta is not an international city, bro.
Listen, I lived there for almost 9 years. Trust me, it's very international. I'm only saying that it's not the same.
It's Wakanda.
Right. International here. No, here's the thing. And see, this is part of the bias we'll get into.
It's not a DC, right?
Well, here's what I was getting ready to say.
Let me back up.
A lot of times when people
right?
say
that's the original chocolate city.
This is
Atlanta,
and we can pick up on this later. No, people consider diversity, and they automatically assume people who come in from Europe, or people who come from China, or people who come from those places. They don't understand. Atlanta is not just Black people. You have tons of Haitians. You have tons of people from the Caribbean. You have tons of people from South America, and those are the parts that don't get spoken about because people just figure it's all Black people. But just because we got the same shade,
they speak about it in the bottom in Dade County. They talk about all those groups of people that you just mentioned.
Of course they do. But my point is, like, Atlanta is, other than Miami, it is literally, without question, the most diverse city in the southeastern United States. And I don't just mean it by comparison.
Do you think that it's more diverse than, say, somewhere like Houston?
That I was just about to say.
Houston and Atlanta are about the same. I would consider Houston more diverse.
Houston's a bigger city than Atlanta.
That's what I was getting ready to say. It's bigger, but I'm saying they're kind of like that. I will put them on the same level. I wouldn't put them on the same level as New York or San Francisco, or DC, DC like Chicago, or something like that. Chicago, right?
Or San Fran, yeah. Or Seattle, right? Yeah.
No, like, but I think that whenever you and again, man, like, we come from the Midwest, so you went to Miami when you were younger. You probably saw some stuff initially that was just like, oh my God, what is really going on? I mean, like, and it's funny, it's like, I mean, or like when I first went to, when I first visited New York, and I was just like, wow, like, this is, it's like there's certain things, like, nothing will prepare you for it, and so you just have to just sort of, when I went to London before I went to New York, and those are two totally different. I mean, they're similar, but they're different cities. But it's just like, when you go to a city like that, and you're just like, damn, like, it kind of makes you realize, for me, gentlemen, like, that what, like, where you come from, and just what this city is about, and just what your city's like. And when I was younger, like, I used to, crap on Kansas City. I used to be like, oh, Kansas City ain't it, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, now that I'm older, now that I've traveled, now that I've settled down, now that I've really realized, all right, so, every city's different. Every city can't be what New York is. Just like, I mean, every city cannot be Chicago. It cannot be San Francisco. That's why these cities are so unique. And so instead of comparing, the cities, you just have to just accept it for what it is. And
appreciate
once you, exactly, man. And it's like, once you really accept what it is, you're able to appreciate things that it has. And so, that's where I'm at with it, man.
All right. For those of you who are not watching us, and you're just listening to us on one of our platforms, one of our streams, we want to say, first of all, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for taking the time to listen.
Absolutely.
Secondly, though, that sound you just heard means it is time for the APB. Who are we looking for this week? And I think it's only fitting, based on the conversation, the whole Space Invaders thing, that I want to take a little bit of a twist to this and offer this up, who I'm looking for is I'm looking for people to actually put their money where their mouth is and be willing to donate, be willing to actually give support, be able to give financial support. And a couple of organizations that I'm going to shout out are the American Speech and Language Association and also the Stuttering Foundation. One of the things that was interesting, we were talking about this, and again, because my wife is an amazing speech language pathologist, one of the things that happens, especially in the Black community, is that the school system is how resources get to children who have problems with speech, problems with hearing, problems with any other type of delays. And so what will happen is you may have heard the term IEP, right? Mm-hmm. This is what they get. This is what is it? Instructional, educational, something, whatever the acronym is for. But the idea is that if you have something that holds you back in your learning, the resources are provided for you through the educational system, through the actual public schools.
And you have to fight and advocate for your children.
You have to advocate for your children. You have to actually be. And so I say this because the first line of defense for most of us, the first time that they notice it can be even with a random kid who actually maybe gets good grades. The first way that they would know that this child actually has a need for an IEP or they have something that is holding them back in their learning comes through speech. It's the first sign, because that's when you can notice it. When a person's writing, when a kid is writing, you don't know when they're stopping and starting and how they're overcoming or what challenges they're facing, or even for that matter, what strategies they have. So what I'm looking for is people, especially in the Black community, to not only invest and be able to give to these nonprofits, but also make it a point that with your children, or even if it's another child in your family or somebody that you're close to, really encourage their parents to advocate for them so that they can get the services there. It is not something that is extra for the public schools. It is not like it's going to cost them more. It's not like you got to beg them for something or you got to fight because you don't deserve it. No, it's there. It's just a lot of times our community doesn't know that it's available to us. And so our kids end up not getting those services, especially when we're talking about speech and language. So I want to just encourage people. I'm looking for people to both donate, give money, actually support those foundations and other ones like it, both the public ones and even the private ones that are in your community, but also really advocate and encourage your friends and loved ones and family members, people at your church, people in your lodge, whatever it is, to advocate for children to get the things that they need. I mean, let's face it, people like me, people like Leron, it could have gone a whole totally different way in our situation. And yet there's a lot of kids out there who are getting left behind because they're not getting services to help them be able to overcome. So that's my APB. I'm looking for people who are actually going to support and really work with these kids so that they can get in a position where they can get resources to overcome some of these struggles that they have in learning. All right. Well, that is yet another episode of The Gray Matters. We want to thank you for stopping by, taking the time to listen to us. We want to encourage you once again to offer us up ideas, questions, advice. I'm sure some of us might take it. But if you have any input, anything, please leave us comments and suggestions. We want to make sure that we're giving you everything that you are looking for on this platform. We want to say thank you again for subscribing to us. Continue to do that. Encourage other people to come listen. We want to once again thank our very special guest, Leron Barton, for taking the time to join us today. We hope to have you back again in the very near future so we can discuss many things about being the Space Invaders. I like that. So want to encourage you all to join us again next week as we take on another topic. And again, thank you for being a part of our community that we are forming here. See you next time. Be blessed.
And check out LeRon's website, LeronBarton.com. He got some dope material on there.
Got some books and everything. Like, cuz is a heavy brother.
Everything that you would want to know about LeRon.
So a preacher, a stay-at-home dad, and a rapper walk into a bar. I am my ancestors back from the grave, no longer a slave, beat to the gods, kneel, pray, surviving my day. A threat to society, cause Malcolm showed me the way. I'm young, black, intelligent. Oh, now they afraid. It's too late, I am the king, I am the spark to the brain. I am the light that fought the dark and now you're seeing the rain. I am the thing they spent their whole life killing. To find out, I am the rose that grew from under their building. This ain't for life, this is a fight so you can open your mind. Peel the scab back, reveal the blood and see what we'll find. I promise. Like LeBron, I am just one of a kind. No longer will I accept the blind, leading the blind. Keep it a buck, say what I want, not giving a screaming afterward like Park until the day my heart stops. And when I do, remember when I take my last breath, just remind the tape and witness all the knowledge I left the grave. So I said, a preacher, a stay-at-home dad, and a rapper walk into a bar. The gray matters.